A couple years ago, I gave my dad this book. It's called Your Father's Story. And this book didn't have anything in it. All it has is a bunch of questions. And so it's all about my dad's life. So I gave this book to my dad a year ago, Christmas, empty. He gave it back to me completed about 3 or 4 weeks ago. He gave it to me on a Sunday right here at Riverwood. I went home and I sat on my deck and I read the entire thing in one sitting. And you know what? I got to say this about my dad. My dad is a man who has walked with Jesus decade after decade after decade after decade, and I can't wait for you to hear from my dad. So we're going to have a little conversation. You saw a little preview, didn't you? Just a few minutes ago. Okay, you're going to see some of that stuff here in just a moment. So I'd like you to welcome my dad up to the platform. That's my pa, Gordy Robinson. He's 87 years young. I'll tell you, that's something. So how you doing, Pa?
I'm here.
You're here, yeah. You know, that's a good point. Now, you know, have you done this much lately?
What?
This?
No, never.
Never.
No.
Yeah, you've never done a message like this before?
No.
But you know, Dad, I got to say, I just want to underline what I just said is that this is really, we're talking about you, but in essence, we're really talking about the Lord, because you have been a man, Dad, who has walked with God for basically your entire life. And I'm so anxious for our people here to understand that this is super, super important. But let's just talk about some fun things for a minute, right?
Sure.
Okay, so Dad, you know, you like cars.
Yeah, I sure do.
Okay, so my brother-in-law, Craig, is sitting over here. And I remember a few years ago, Craig and, well, we used to have a thing we did every summer. We called it Gordy's Gang. And so all the guys would get together and go camping or go someplace. And one of those times we were in South Dakota, we were driving back. Craig, my dad, and me were in Dad's pickup truck. We're driving back, and I said, Dad, how many cars have you had? You know, so he starts talking about cars, and we got to, I think it was in the 50s at that point, and he's had at least 15 since then. So, I mean, Dad loves his cars. Here's Dad's favorite car. What is that car, Dad?
Right now?
That one up there.
That's a 55 Ford. That's the best one of all time.
Yeah, the best
right
one
there.
of all time.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a great car. Tell us,
was.
though, there was kind of a sad thing attached to that, wasn't there?
Yeah, we had that car for, I don't know, year and a half, and we were living in Brooklyn Park, and my wife, Keith's mother, was working night shift at Glenwood, back at the old Glenwood Hills Hospital. She was coming home from work, 7 o'clock in the morning on Highway 52 and Highway 100. She went to sleep and ran the light and got into an accident. She was thrown out of the car, skinned up pretty well. She had a passenger, too, and they were both thrown out, didn't have seat belts in, wore seat belts.
Yeah.
But she was thrown out and got skinned up badly. She was in the hospital.
She could have died, actually.
She could have,
you
absolutely.
Told me that. Yeah,
absolutely,
she
could have.
They were picking gravel out of her.
That's
right.
right.
It was just a mess. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that demolished that car and went on to get.
But now, wait,
other.
no, not so fast.
Okay.
So Dad just got a new car.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not new, but it's new to me.
This is my dad. Okay. Maybe somebody else does this, but find me another 87-year-old man that goes out and buys a Camaro. I mean,
so why not?
Perfect. Yeah. So, Dad, you know, this is you. You know, kind of one of the things you love. But you know, you grew up up north, and you grew up. Tell us a little bit about like what your life was like when you were growing up.
Well, I grew up, you know, born in the early 30s, and it was poverty. It was depression.
By the way, the 30s, I think they had just invented round tires.
Not too long, yeah. So that's what we used for, that's what my brother and I thought we were driving cars and we rolled tires around. That was what we had. But,
So that was,
you know,
Dad, that was your entertainment.
that was our entertainment.
So that
was our
tells you you didn't
make-believe.
have Xboxes and stuff like
No,
that.
no. I don't even know what that is today. Why would I?
Yeah, yeah.
But,
so
no,
you
that's
grew up
what
on
we
a farm.
did. Yeah, grew up on a farm, northwest of Eagle Bend, Minnesota, 130 miles northwest? 100 maybe.
That's
Anyway, so that's where, one of the farms we grew up on and had, grew up there with my mother and dad and two
wait.
sibs and,
Yeah, your mother and dad, you
Uh,
had 3 siblings.
yeah.
Okay, now there were other people living in your home.
Yeah.
In spite of the fact that you did not have a lot, Dad, there were other people living there. Who was living with you then?
Well, I had my grandma, that would have been my mother's mother. She, and then my dad's uncle, who would have been my great uncle, lived there. And
How'd that go, Dad?
oh boy, not good.
And why
Well-
was that, Dad? Why
well,
was that?
Because they didn't talk to each other. We all lived in this house with my grandma and the great uncle and the rest of my family for 10, 12 years, but they never talked to each other.
Can you imagine?
My grandma and my great uncle sat around this table, never talked to each other, not once. And my dad didn't get along with his mother-in-law, my grandma, either.
So
So
yeah.
there we go.
So we have, this is a dysfunctional family 101
Amen.
situation right
Amen.
here, you know? Yeah. So you grew up in that, and then you moved to Osakis, and your folks
did.
opened up a restaurant.
They did. They had, we lived on a farm, and they had an auction sale. We moved into the town of Osakis, and they opened up a restaurant. And that was my high school years when
Yeah.
they lived in town and
Yep.
operated the restaurant.
Yep.
So that was not a whole lot of home life there because they worked evenings. I mean, my dad and
Yeah.
mother got up, 5 o'clock in the morning, went up to the restaurant and worked till 1 or 2 in the afternoon, went home for a couple hours and went back to the restaurant and worked till 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Well, where was my brother and I, where are we? I mean, we're out on the street and
Yeah.
well, we didn't really get into trouble, but we could have done better.
No, I'm sure you didn't, Dad. Right. Okay. But then, so you grew up there, you moved to the Twin Cities, got a job
Right.
at the Sioux Line Railroad, and then
Right.
you met this woman,
Yeah,
right?
sure did.
So that happens to be my mom. And so tell us about her.
Couldn't have done better. I mean, there's no way.
Yeah.
She was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was the epitome of immaturity. She was the epitome of maturity. And so.
Wait, just a second. How many guys would say the same thing in their, yeah,
Well,
I think,
that's the way it was,
yeah,
I cannot tell a lie.
yeah.
Or even,
Yeah.
Anyway, but she was absolutely
How'd you meet her, Pa?
blind, well, kind of a blind date.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we ended up going on the first date over to the state fair and had a good time at the state fair. My buddy Dexter Johnson and I. And so then we went home, had our picture taken at the state fair, of course, and all that. But took her back to the hospital, her and the other girl.
Well,
And-
why was she at the hospital?
Well, I mean, that's where her dorm was at
Right.
Lutheran Deaconess Hospital in Minneapolis. So we took her back to the dorm.
She was a student there.
She was a student.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Right. So we took her home, and I went home and went about my business and working, but not doing much of anything.
Right.
And so kind of several months went by, and thought, I wonder what this girl in Melba is doing these days. Maybe I should give her a call. Well, so I called her up. Well, she actually sounded kind of like, yeah, that'd be kind of a good time. Sure, I'll do that. What? I couldn't believe it. So anyway, we did go out and went out several times.
You went roller
after-
skating.
No, not
that time.
Not that time.
Oh, okay.
No, that was before.
Yeah.
But we went to movies. We spent a lot of time down in the parks in the cities, walking around down there, Minnehaha Falls and places like that.
Yeah.
We went over to Como Park, various things. There's a lot of things to do in Minneapolis.
So pretty soon, so you're falling in love. Pretty
Right.
soon you get married.
Right,
You get married in 55,
right.
right? December of 55. And then you were living where at that particular time?
After we got married,
Yeah.
we got an apartment in Richfield, right about where the freeway is, and it goes through Richfield right
Yep.
now.
Yep.
Um,
And then what did you do? You're working for the railroad. You
Right.
live it. Your mom's doing the nursing thing, and pretty
Right.
soon you decide it's time to buy a house.
We did, well, we had joined a church in South Minneapolis down on 39th in Chicago, Calvary Lutheran Church. And, but we were living in apartments, and it just, well, Brad had been born, and thought, no, we found this place out in Brooklyn Park where you could pay what was called paint your way in, painted for the down payment on the house, built the house and painted the house. Okay, so that's what we did. Took us a long time to get it all painted all summer.
Yep.
And it was hot outside. Of course, we didn't have any air conditioning or
Right.
anything like that. But that's what we did, and so we got that house, moved in there, some friends, and made friends.
So you were working at the railroad, but that
Right.
kind of came to an end. You sensed something was ending there. What was that like, and what
Well,
did you do?
one thing was ending. It was that time that they called us together one day at the office in downtown Minneapolis, Sioux Line office. They said, guys, we're going to be doing some changing in here. There's this thing called computers that's coming in. And I said, oh, and that means your guys are going to have to change. We're going to have to change. But also there's another thing happening at the same time. I said, there's something going on in my life that I'm not real, there's some nudging to do something else. And my wife, she had said earlier over the last few years, Gordy, if you want to get more training, whatever you want to do, I'll go to work full time and you go to school. So I started putting some finances together to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I quit the Sioux Line Railroad after 10 years and started at the University of Minnesota with a goal of becoming a social worker.
Okay, so you were a social worker for Hennepin County for a lot of years,
Right.
like 30 years,
Yeah.
right? And I'll tell you, I remember times when I was growing up when, that those were rough years. That was not always a happy experience at the Hennepin County Welfare Department.
No, there was some kind of things going on, like people who didn't like the work we were doing down there. And so protesters were showing up, and I happened to be promoted to a supervisory position, and protesters would show up, walk in my office and demand some answers and things like that. And so those are stressful times, but I got transferred out of that after a few years and got into positions that I really felt good about doing, and had a good remaining experience.
Yeah, you were-
Hennepin County is a great place.
Yeah, you were working helping like seniors get health care and stuff, right, Dad?
Well, not health care,
like
but home care.
Home care,
Home
yeah,
cares,
home care, yeah.
Yeah. Prior to that, I worked in the work and training program, helping people to get into training and get in the workforce and get off the welfare rolls and get out and go to work. And so that was a good job. Then I got into working in the seniors program,
Yeah.
and it was
Worked out
really
Good. Yeah, I remember that
rewarding
last
experience.
chapter was
Very
really
good.
an awesome one. Now,
Yeah.
along about this time, you had these 5 kids.
Yeah, sure did.
So this is a picture of us, and I'm saying it's around 1975. And so, Dad,
Right.
Brenda's up. Other than Brenda, who's the only girl, and other than Brad, who's your firstborn,
Right.
and other than the twins, who's your favorite one?
Oh, I got to think about that.
Yeah, I know. so we, yeah,
This
So-
guy.
So we were living up there in Anoka, and pretty soon, you ended up retiring.
Right.
You retired up to Monaga and got a lake place up there, and it went pretty good for a while. And then what happened?
Well, it went pretty good for a short period of time after we moved up there, but Melba started having health issues with a syndrome. It's not a disease, it's not contagious, but it's a syndrome called scleroderma. If anybody...
It's tough. It's a long disease, and Mom struggled with it for quite a few years, and you were really faithful to help her with that for years, and it was good.
It was tough.
It was very tough.
It was tough. It was no picnic, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So Mom passed away in 2004.
Right.
Okay, and that was a big event for our family. And so Dad's living up in Monaga, and then he goes to a church picnic at a church, and he
Right.
meets somebody named Nancy. Yay,
Hey.
Nancy!
Woo.
There she is. So, and Nancy's amazing. My dad has had the privilege of having two awesome, godly wives.
Right.
And not a lot of people can say that, but that's really, so that's a little bit of your story. So,
Right.
so let's talk about, I want to kind of get to these things that you've written, Dad.
Okay.
You've written such cool things. And so this is a picture of Dad and me, actually, on my first birthday. And so, Dad, we were going to church at First Lutheran Church.
Right.
And so something happened that day, one day.
Okay. So we're in First Lutheran Church. Melba's working at the job, nursing. But I always took the kids to church. And so I don't know where Brad, I suppose he was in Sunday school, but Keith was in the nursery. But I'm sitting in church. The building was like this. So it had that one and then it had the wing. And so I'm hearing down in the nursery in the basement, this kid screaming and hollering, and it went on and on. Whoa! Pretty soon I'm hearing footsteps up the stairs coming into the sanctuary. Oh yeah, right up in front. This nursery lady brings this kid up in front. Who belongs to this kid?
So, yeah, well, it's one of the few times I'm really embarrassed my dad, But Dad, so Dad and I, we have a great relationship. You have great relationships with all your kids, Dad.
Right.
You do. You're awesome. But on this particular thing, you talked about, the question is kind of like, what do you and I have in common? And I
Right.
love what you said, Dad. You said love for the Lord, His Word, and motorcycles. Boom! In that order, right? That's good.
Sure.
That's good. So Dad, your walk with God. Okay, so you grew up in a Lutheran church,
Right.
And a Lutheran church, you confirmed and all that. And so your faith meant one thing when you were younger, but you
Right.
came to a certain spot in
Yep.
about 1956 that really meant something to you. Could you tell us how
It
that
did,
went?
sure. We were living, Melba and I were living, we got married in 55, 56. We were living in an apartment in South Minneapolis. And Melba's sister, Katie, graduated from high school, and she came to live with us while she looked for a job in Minneapolis. So Billy Graham happened to be having a crusade at Parade Stadium, which is kind of in South Minneapolis way back. And so he was having this event there, his usual kind of thing. So I got to know the altar call and did his usual, like I say, his usual kind of thing. And we're sitting there, and I'll tell you, there was something different that went on because I could not sit in that seat without going forward.
Right.
Billy Graham said something to the effect, now I know there's a lot of people here that have been baptized, confirmed, everything, and you're walking, you
This is
believe
what he
you're
was
walking
saying
with.
to the congregation.
This is what Billy Graham was saying to the
Yeah.
people that were there.
Yeah.
And so, man, what he's saying fits exactly where I'm at. And so I sat there for a few minutes, and so then he starts to call, come forward. Man, I can't sit here. I just cannot sit here. So the three of us went forward, and I'll call it a reconfirmation of confirmation. Does that make sense? But that's what happened. It was a different walk after that.
Yep. Yep.
And I had, just recently, the lady that lives across the hall from us, I was talking with her about that. She said I had exactly the same experience way back when she was a kid. So
Right.
we went to a Billy Graham crusade, and I could not sit there.
Right.
So I guess, it happens to other people too.
So you grew up in a believing home, but
Right.
you told me, Dad, when we were going through this, that your life before that moment was sort of religious maybe, but not really committed. Would that be accurate?
I would say that, but at the same time, if I died, I knew where I was going to be spending eternity. But the walk was different after that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I don't want to, that was all building to that event
Right. Right.
with Billy Graham. My life prior to that time had all built. I've been built on God's Word.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want to diminish what happened before the Billy Graham event either.
So, Dad.
That was building.
Yeah. I don't want to interrupt you.
That's okay.
Okay. So, Dad, we're going to talk, there's a couple more things I want you to talk about, but Dad, if there was somebody here today, or maybe watching online,
Right.
who's had that experience where they kind of grew up a certain way, knew certain things, but really haven't really given their heart to Christ, Lord, Dad, what would you say to that person?
Listen for his word. Listen for his call.
Yeah.
It might happen in strange ways. Who knows? But he'll call if you're listening.
And
That's
so,
all.
Dad, we talk about the most important thing. This is kind of what we've been saying around here lately. Is the most important thing any of us can ever do is have Jesus Christ at the very core of our being. That is what makes the difference in absolutely everything. And so the question is, what do you think is the most important task of a father? So we're looking at a lot of fathers, and now a lot of young guys that will someday be fathers. And so, Dad, what did you say to that?
Well,
Do you want some help with that?
yeah.
I'll read it for you.
Okay.
Okay? It says, leading and setting the stage for my children to know the Lord. So, Dad, I just want to say this. Growing up, there was never a time when I didn't get about Christ. All right? You made it very easy for us kids to want to follow Jesus. And you did this. You actually did this, okay? When we're growing up, it was like we're going to church, and there wasn't really a whole lot of question about it, nor did we really kind of push against it very much. And we were when we were growing up, my brother and sister and I were part of a youth ministry. We had a choir of anywhere from 60 to 100 voices, and we practiced every Sunday. We went to Sunday evening church. And you know what? Honestly, it wasn't one of those situations where we pushed against it, and it was just sort of part of who we were. But it wasn't just about going to church. We had like family devotions and stuff like that too. And so it was just part of our lives, right? And so that's what I think is super important that you've done, Dad. You did that.
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, it was just the way we did life. That was life.
Yes.
And I don't know what more you can say, but that's the way we're expected. That's the way God wants us to live life.
Yeah. Just to live in his word, live
Right.
with his people.
Right.
Don't be out there doing stuff like looking one way over here, but another like crazy, Saturday night, whatever stuff. And then, oh, by the way, here's Sunday morning.
No.
It's like this is our consistent walk with Christ. This is what it looks like.
But there comes a point in that life sometime when you have to say, okay, here it is. Now, which way am I? The Lord's calling, which way am I going to go? Am I going to say, no, I don't want that?
Right.
No.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
make it count and obey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obey when he calls, be
Yeah.
there.
Yep. That's good. And so there's one more that we want to talk about, and that's it says, I want to pass this on. And the prompt says, what traditions do you hope to pass on to me and to my generation, and why? And, you know, I love that you said this one is easy. This one is easy. And you simply quote from Mark chapter 12. You want to read it here, Pa? It's right there. Yeah.
I don't know if I can't. I can't really see it.
Okay. Yeah, he's getting a little weepy. It says, love the Lord your God.
Yeah. Take my
Love the
glasses.
Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And the second is this,
like it.
love your neighbor as yourself. There's no commandment greater than these. And this is, Dad says on this little writing, he says, that is the central issue in our family, all of us. And, you know, Dad, I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about how you feel about it being the central issue in our family about loving the Lord?
What's the responsibility of a father? That's the central issue. Teach your children to love the Lord and your neighbor as yourself. I don't know what you can add to that, really. I just don't know.
Yeah. And I love, Dad, when you were saying the other day that you have a song, that first line to a song. Like, Dad, you know, you've had some hard knocks in life.
Yeah.
You really have. But you always say this thing about where can I go?
Yeah. Well, so, yeah, I've had some hard knocks. But what are you going to do about it? What am I going to do about that?
Right.
Am I going to just get bitter and say, forget it all? No, you got a choice on which way you want to go with that.
Right.
When you face loss, which way you're going to go?
Yeah.
Where can I go but to the Lord?
That's the song. Yep. So, you know, Dad, I just want to say, you know, we're looking at a lot of folks that someday, Lord willing, will be 87. Or maybe more than 87. And for some of us, it's like 2 heartbeats away, right? But for a lot of us, we're younger, you know. But here's the thing, is that we're going to get to be a certain spot. And Dad, would you agree with this, that when you look in the rearview mirror and you can see a life that honors Jesus, that's what counts?
That's all that counts. That's all that counts. Now, look, you got a choice where you're going to spend eternity. I mean, that's what it is. And you can make a choice.
Yeah.
You've always got a choice, or no choice. You can have a choice not to have a choice.
Yep.
So, but you've got a choice, and where are you going to spend eternity? That's the most crucial issue you can ever face.
Yep.
Where are you going to spend eternity?
Yep. And so, guys, I want to talk to you for a second. Okay? Men, I want you to listen. You know, we're going to close by saying, sing the song that all my life you've been faithful, all my life you've been so good. Listen, guys, we in a sense pave the way for our families to follow the Lord, okay? And I can say this about my dad, that he has been faithful. My dad has been faithful to Jesus, and it has mattered, and it has blessed the generations, now 4 generations of his offspring in this room today. And we can all say in truth that my dad has been faithful, and he's been a picture, not a perfect picture, he'd be the first to admit it, but he's a picture of what it means to follow Christ and what it means to be a godly man. And so, guys, listen up. It's on you. I'm asking every father, every young man, even if you're not a father yet, I want you to take this seriously about setting the standard for your own family of following Jesus in your family.
Amen.
It matters. It matters deeply. And so you heard it from a guy much smarter, much wiser than me. And this is a really great man. And so I'm really proud of my dad, and I'm so grateful. Dad, thank you so much.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I stay here? Okay.
Dad, could you come up here, please? I'm going to ask our kids, our grandkids, great-grandkids, just to come stand up here, too, for just a second for the benediction. Come on up here. Come on up here. I've asked my dad today to give the benediction, and here he stands with some of his own kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids. So please hear the benediction.
The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit of God. Amen.
Go in peace, friends.